You know, sometimes we hear these Old Testament stories. Man, what do we do with them? You know? Well, what was religion like back in ancient Israel? For that matter, among all cultures, what in the world were they doing with those symbols and those signs? How did it come to be such a powerful symbol for them of who they were as a people? And as I was reading over this passage a couple of weeks ago, I thought of the movie. Can you tell us something about Larry Siegfried?
He passed away a few years
He
ago.
passed away about 2 years ago, 2010.
Played for High State, played for Boston Celtics, and then he, after he retired, he worked over at the Ohio Reformatory in Mansfield. He was a sociology major.
Is that right? He was a sociology.
Right.
Bob knows more about it than I do. I figured you'd like the Ohio State angle, okay? There's a list of the 20 most famous Ohio State basketball players. Larry Siegfried was like 18, something like that. And he did play with those Celtic teams. Now, Bill Russell had one fault. He was a very poor free throw shooter. Kind of like Shaq. Remember when the Cavs had Shaq? He could do everything but shoot free throws. That's the way Bill Russell was. So in a championship game, very end of the game, Bill Russell, of course, he drives the lane, he gets fouled. He gets 2 free throws. And the game is on the line. He's got to get both of them. Larry Siegfried walked over and said something to him. And Bill Russell laughed. And then he sank those 2 free throws. You know what he said? Remember to bend your knees. Larry Siegfried was always a great shooter, but Bill Russell needed it. And on a team, we need people to remind us of where we've been and where we want to go. And so, with the history of spirituality, we don't have to be this guy. You know, be a member of the church, to have faith, you don't need to find time. As Martin Luther King said, you have to have a heart full of grace, a heart full of love. While we were there, we kind of got to hang out with some of the national office staff, and this is Ben Guess. He's a really sharp guy. He used to do the United Church News and all media work. He's now in charge of vitality work. And he asked this question: how does McDonald's describe themselves? Can anybody answer that? They have it on every single one of their signs. Billions and billions served.